Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Happy Sunday from Nashville, Tennessee, here in the US. I am back to you to continue our review and discussion of Wake Up and Be Happy. This is our book club, and the book was written by spiritual author Joanna de Angelis. If this is the first time you join us, just for your information, this is the eighth book of a series of books. So it's known as the psychological series, and it's smack in the middle. The series has 16 books, and we are at the tail end of our discussion. We'll focus on chapter 26, Remain in Harmony. For those that have not seen us before, we have met weekly to review one chapter of the book in about 30 minutes. If you are interested, please go to our YouTube channel, which is the channel for Solitude Center for Spiritual Living, and you can listen to all of our previous discussions. I mentioned this earlier, and I like to repeat that the series of books written by Joanna de Angelis, they aim at really going right at the heart of problems. They provoke thoughts and reflections about our problems, our conflicts, our challenges, and all of those things, the nuanced view of who we are as human beings. So I encouraged all of you to read the entire book, if not all the series, and let me know. Let me know what you think about my interpretation of this amazing text. So as we keep going, today, chapter 26, we're going to be talking about the idea that we must protect ourselves against, air quotes, the noise in the world. And we protect ourselves from this noise by, yes, remaining in harmony. So Joanna de Angelis reminds us, why is this so important to all of us? And we'll talk about those are my subdivisions. Just my mind requires some linear approach to the content. But we're going to start a little bit referring to the planet Earth, which is a planet in transition. Then we're going to talk about all the chaos that is all around us. And finally, talk about harmony as a source of inner strength. So as we keep going, I love this. I want you to take a look. Joanna starts by saying it's very a mental picture, right, of the human condition. So she talks about how light burns bright in the darkness. Light, darkness. Medication is for the sick, healing in sickness. Fresh water quenches the thirst, and bread ends hunger. So she starts with those human conditions again: darkness, sickness, thirst, and hunger. And quickly, right, puts us there are ways to solve all of them. The problem, as you and I may have seen it, is it's very hard to solve darkness, isn't it? So let's remind ourselves our world, we are immersed in a world that is in transition. It is going through a process of purification. Yes, we are getting better as a planet, and all of the inhabitants of the planet, the aggregate collective way that we're doing is one of involvement. It is one of purification. By purification, we just means we're becoming less burdened by all that we carry, all the guilt that we carry, all of the things that make us, put us down and creates a sense of chaos. It's a disorganized way of living when we don't know if what we're doing, our choices, are causing us and the others some sort of pain. So back to the idea of the process of purification. What is the mental picture that comes to you? Air filter, water filter, and my third metaphor, or that came, the mental picture that came to my mind was actually cleaning an aquarium. Yes, cleaning an aquarium. So we have a glass full of water, and we have some sort of filtering, right? And we have fish, but there are detritus that accumulate at the end, on top or under the pebbles, under at the bottom of the aquarium, and we go through some cleaning of that aquarium every once in a while, maybe once a month, depending on how many fish you have, or once every 3 months, 6 months, etc. So all I'm trying to say here is that yes, we do take the fish out, right? But what if when we are cleaning the water, minus the fish, we have to remove all of the rocks, right? We're going to clean the rocks. And yes, that water that was supposedly clear gets really murky. I don't know if you've ever seen this. I've seen it many, many times. But it's very interesting because in order for us to clean, truly clean, filter the aquarium from all of the impurities, we have to make it murky. Yes, this is how it's happening to us. We are in the process of purification, so it seems that everything is being shaken and it's quite murky where we live, our environment right now. And more than ever, we start to notice, and it's very important for us to understand that, right? Before, perhaps this was normalized, and now it is no longer. Hence, we notice more the polar opposites, right? Peace, violence, construction, destruction, a life devoted to ideals, to objectives, to fulfillment, to growth, and lives devoted to all consuming pleasures. Yes, sex, drugs, and rock and roll type of thing. But the important notice, or the important message here, is that we must be assured, even though we notice the murky waters, it will be clean. We're in the process of the aquarium owner just taking all of that impurities in the water out so the fish can go back and swim better. I'm just kidding here, but let's think about it, right? Future view of our planet is a planet where we don't see crime, addiction. What addiction, right? Tragedies? No, no, there are no tragedies anymore. And all of those things that cause us so much suffering, so much pain, will start to be less and less frequent. The march toward our spiritual growth will continue. It's our individual path, as we all know. And as we continue in this path, we will continue to see this brand new, what will feel like a brand new earth for us. So as we continue here, I wanted to share this notion that that's what we see, right? We see chaos, and it's hard for so many of us, and those, as I said before, the murky waters is only a temporary condition. And while we see the dirt, or in our case, we witness all this chaos around us, That is exactly at this point that Joanna de Angelis tells us, I need you. We need you. Jesus needs us. God and all the spirits of light that are helping this transition, that were helping clean the aquarium. We really need you and me to find our inner peace so that we can maintain that sense of balance and harmony, this equilibrium, our faith that there is mercy, there is justice, there is goodness, so that we don't contribute to the current chaos there is. So, Joanna suggests we begin our inward transformation now. If we haven't done so, she asks us to please, I can hear her in my mind's eye, right? Please, Marcia, start it now. Don't wait until tomorrow, right? We need to look for how we start that sense of that path toward our transformation. And how do we do this? Well, simply put, in 3 or 4 words, it's choosing to sacrifice. And what I mean by that, using the word sacrifice, root sacred, turn divine all that we have in our lives. So let us sacrifice ourselves toward our growth. Let us really focus on our own goals, our pursuits, our ideals, and let's focus on being good. Pause, and I'm going to go into a different type of discussion here because I'm going to go deep, deep, deep in the world of business. Yes, you heard me right. If you go to Harvard Business, the reviews, the HBR reviews, you find an acronym that is called VUCA, VUCA, that kind of explains a little bit about this chaos and how hard it is, right? So I'm going to take a moment to explain to you what is VUCA. And VUCA stands V for volatility, right? Can you see how volatile the world is? It is a world that is changing so fast. Technology, yes, a pandemic, all of the things that are going that are uprooting, they're upending our lives, and it's going faster and faster and faster, right? Which means we live in a constantly changing and seemingly more chaotic, right? More unstable every day. And those changes can be big or small, but it feels to all of us rather unpredictable. And it feels more and more dramatic. It feels they come in a accelerated pace, right? And they happen faster and faster. So as events unfold, and yes, the whatever, the iPhone 14 is coming, yes, right? But technology, good or bad, is coming. All the things that happen to your body with pandemic and vaccination and mutated genes and so on and so forth are just examples of how we cannot really feel control anymore about what's happened externally to us. And if they're unpredictable for people that have a mind of there is a problem, I need to find a solution, especially if it is a material solution, we look for cause and effect, and it's hard for us to find the cause and effect from a material lens only. But I said it's VUCA. I just gave you the V. Let's move on to U, uncertainty, right? And that's how it feels right now. If you don't have faith, if you don't believe that we have God has us, right? God we there are plans for us, and we don't have to despair. But what we see in this changing world, of the world in transition, is a lot of uncertainty, and it's becoming so hard to either anticipate or predict how things will unfold based on history, right? Our history is there, and to me and to many is a source of consolation. Yes, we've seen this before. Let's it's going to repeat it again. It's becoming much more difficult for us to look at our past experience and predict how to do things better, right? Very, very difficult to plan, very, very difficult to, even from a material perspective, to understand what path to do next. C is for complexity, yes, chaos and complexity. And you may ask, but Marcia, yeah, it's complex because we human beings are evolving, growing, and we're becoming more interconnected, thank goodness. But with that, there are many different layers and impacts, interconnected impacts to everybody's um, actions and thoughts. So with that, we live into an increasingly complex world. And yes, the last one, A for ambiguity, that means that we're no longer falling into, yes, one size fits all approach to life. We are individuals, individuated spirits. We all have our own path. We are all in different levels of our own evolution. Therefore, the ambiguity that comes from not knowing what the other is going through, but most importantly, I'm going to say it, not knowing how we are doing because we don't pay attention too much in ourselves. It creates even more that sense of ambiguity. So that's VUCA from Harvard Business World, right? But what have we noticed? And I wrote it down here. Let me make sure that we can read that. What we noticed, and those are the words from Joanna de Angelis, right? Old and powerful institutions falling, crumbling. What we held dear as the organization institutions that gave us a sense of north, they're falling down. That political landscape that we are going through globally, we find ethical principles disappearing, right? And we don't know what's right or wrong anymore. And there's that insatiable appetite that is not only fed, but actually that appetite is whetted by this capitalist and consumer society that needs that hunger to be ignited. And finally, we know that statistics keep talking about rising violence and rising crime. Oh boy, we feel out of place, right? Sometimes it feels like we're a stranger in our own home, the places of work, the places of worship, our communities, our neighbors, wherever you are. And in this context, the primary emotions that come to us are what? Fear, sadness, anger, even to all those events in this VUCA world. And those emotions may trigger our vulnerable self and indeed trigger depression, anxiety, and resentment in all of us. Do you also wonder, like majority of people, what will the future be like? this chaotic world, this VUCA world, as Harvard Business says, um, is there. But that is, as Joanna tells us, that is the time for us to find the center, the axis, our own inner compass, and stay calm amid chaos. And Joanna specifically calls us to align with everything that we hold dear. And what she means by that is everything that we believe based on our systems of belief, our systems of value, of what is good. And wait, the waters in this aquarium will be cleaned up. And she said, when we have this strong in a sense of faith, nothing, nothing will impact us. Nothing will disturb us. So, my proposal here, yes, Harvard, I'm going to propose this to you. Let's completely change the VUCA acronym to now say V stands for vision. Let us paint this vivid picture of a future of the planet of regeneration. Let's use that mental, the capacity to create a mental picture as our compass, as our guidance of how we should behave and feel and have fortitude. Let's use you for understanding. Yes, we do know that understanding, and we do know and understand that everything is interconnected. Yes, we do, but let's reflect from a spiritual point of view. Let's think and act with harmony. And if we know that we are transitioning to a planet, a world regeneration, let's go backwards. If that's the end in mind, if the end is where the world will no longer be plagued by violence and crime and all of that chaos, let us demonstrate organization and peace and harmony before we get there, in advance of us getting there. This is all that we can control, right? Our feelings, our behaviors, and our reactions. Let's really convert our sense of anxiety, depression, and resistance. And many times we get angry and resist into positive, productive energy. VUCA, C for clarity. Let us focus on simplicity, focus on what's good, focus on God's mercy. This process of purification is what counts, and it's what's really about right now. So let's trust the process. Let's apply all of our energy, our strength, where we will be most effective, which is being light in the darkness. And I finalize with A for adaptability, agility. Yes, let's be flexible. Let's think about we will face pain, we will face suffering, we will face conflicts, right? But let's be honest, transparent, and in the process of being humble and understanding our stance, let's build our resistance to this chaos. Oof, I think we can do it. As we close our talk today, I just wanted to bring about the idea of inner strength. So Joanna provides several historical examples, and you can read it all. I'm going to go very fast, but those examples of several people that, yes, they died in with fire. They were burned because of their beliefs. And it's very interesting when we hear that, because what is the common element in all those figures is that they, in the midst of a horrific death, they martyrs, they were able to maintain their calm and go through extreme pains in what we can see still an insane world, right? That is not new. It's several centuries old, but now it's just exacerbated. And we see that if they could, we can too, right? More than ever, we see that because of this transition that we're undergoing, it's easy to fall with a delusion of believing that life is limited to a material existence and it's judged by a material lens and it is guided by that material framework of thought. So, what are the examples she brought to us in closing? She brought Joanna de Cusa. She brought the figure of Jan Hus. She brought Joan of Arc and Giordano Bruno. Yes, all J's and G's, right? J. But who's Joanna de Cusa? Yes, 2000, more than 2000 years ago, this amazing woman. And if you read Luke chapter 8 and Luke chapter 24, they all talk about this figure of Joanna de Cusa who is well known for number one, like Mary Magdalene. We're more aware of Mary than Joanna, right? But like Mary, Jesus, her encounter with Jesus changed her life, right? He was able to touch her heart and give light to a a life of darkness that she was living. And as such, she accompanied Jesus everywhere she could. And doing when the third day, right, when there was just women that went to the tomb, she was one of the three women, and they found the tomb empty. Uh, Nero, in his moment of insanity, and this is terrible to say, but I'm going to say it anyways. He decided that at the time, Christians that were found and in prison would be the light. And this is very interesting and ironic, right? They would light the city by being living candles. So he would immerse those individuals in the material to inflame them, and they would tie and put fire, and they would burn like a candle. That's terrible death. And yet we know that Joanna de Cusa never complained, and she went through the terrible death knowing that Jesus was with her and welcoming her home. 2000 years ago. Jan Hus, this is, he was born in end of the 1300s, so, 700 years ago. He too was burned at stake because of what he brought to the world at the time, his belief systems. And the belief system was not just follow Jesus at the time, like Joanna, but he brought the idea, this is his credit as the birth of the entire Protestant revolution that came later, more known with, for example, with Martin Luther, right? He brought the sense as a philosopher and theologian in Prague. He brought the inspiration for reformation of the church. Yes, he was he was put to be burned at the stake for heresy against the doctrines of the Catholic Church. And I love this. While he's there, he was heard singing psalms as he was burning. And in some people also say that as he was dying, he would say that God would raise others whose calls for reform would not be suppressed. And of course, this came later with Martin Luther, who was born almost a century later. One of the things that's important with Hus is that he really was known for for his calm during death, but also showing extreme compassion while he was going through all that went through in his life. Joan of Arc, everybody knows Joan. Joan, a young woman, comes to Charles, and now we're talking about 1400s, early 1400s. She died before she was 20. Um, um, Joan uh, is today a patron saint of France, as we know, and but she was captured, and she was at the time in the Inquisition. She was condemned and burned at stake. And if you ever go to Rouen in France, south of France, and I think it's south of France, and the people they Juan are so proud of Joan of Arc, because they say as she was burned at the stake, they took her heart and they threw it at the river, and they could see her heart pulsating. It didn't die. So whatever, if it's myth or rumor, whatever, it's quite poetic that her what she brought forth at such a young age. And I finish with Giordano Bruno, the last of the examples, because now we're speaking 1500s, right? Philosopher, mathematician, poet, cosmological theorist, but he was too charged of heresy. Why? Because he did not um, agree with certain Catholic doctrines or dogma to include hell, right? He did not include Jesus as God, but Jesus as a human, right? Therefore, Mary could not be a virgin. That the birth of Mary, and finally the transubstantiation. So all of his thoughts were against what the church at the time was preaching, and most importantly, he believed, and he was an avid believer in reincarnation, what he called the transmigration of the soul, and he too was burned at stake. Lots of fire, lots of pain. All of those individuals, throughout their conduct, their behaviors, their faith, what they believed in, were persecuted, they're condemned, they're put to death, but they all remain calm. We are not going through that, but we need to see our days, for different reasons, for different circumstances, are also troublesome. And we're asked, as I close the chapter here, we're asked to live life with peace and faith, right? And let us remember, a doctor is needed for those who are sick. A teacher is neither for those who do not have knowledge yet. So, what is needed from us? If we say that we are Christians, if we say that we believe in the teachings left to us in the Christian faith, we are needed for our strength. For those who are weak, they'll come to us. So, as I finalized here, and I'm going to make it bigger, we can read that Jesus always dealt with individuals and situations in which, in a way, were similar to the ones you now face. It was in that environment that he demonstrated his greatness, remaining in harmony with the goals he set for himself without being troubled or evasive at any time. Thus, remain in harmony. So, I want to thank you for your time. We will see you next week when we discuss prayers.